stories we will share. Tasty bites and highlights together everywhere. Sports Bites, let's unite. Great food and games tonight. Tune in, feel the vibe. It's a winning ride. From live fried chicken, slam dunks and spicy fries. Catch the play-by-play man on a plate of good times. Join us for the flavor, join us for the game. Every bite and replay, memories will fade. Sports Bites, let's unite. Great food and games tonight. Tune in, feel the vibe. It's a winning ride. Football and fried chicken, slam dunks and spicy fries. Catch the play-by-play man on a plate of good times. Join us for the flavor, join us for the game. Every bite and replay, memories will frame. Sports Bites, let's unite. Great food and games tonight. Tune in, feel the vibe. It's a winning ride.
Welcome to Sports Bites. Welcome to Sports Bites with your host, Chris Joseph. Are you a sports fanatic who loves the thrill of the game and the delicious food that accompanies it?
And then they had chicken fingers, exotic chicken fingers.
Join us as we dive into the world of sports and the delectable bites that make the experience even better. Whether you're in the stadium, tailgating, or watching from the comfort of your home, get ready to satisfy your sports cravings with Chris Joseph on Sports Bites. Let's dig in.
Oh, good evening, everybody. It is Friday football time here on Sports Bites. Hope you guys are having a great Friday. A lot going on. Some big games. We had some football last night. We'll talk about the NFL situation. Obviously, Tua on everybody's mind. And also, I just think, this week what we're doing in college football, there's a lot of good games. We're going to talk about it. Hope you got some time, a little bit, about an hour or so. And also, I have an interview that I'm going to play. I did it earlier today with Hale McGranahan from the Big Spur 247. So it's the 247 South Carolina network, right? Had him come on, talk about the big game that's going on in Columbia this weekend with South Carolina and LSU, kind of get his thoughts on the Gamecocks in this big game. Does he think they can win? What's the temperature like on Shane Beamer? All that's covered there. Also, I'm going to go over my 6 pick of games, give them a 6 picks, where I'm going to break down the spread, talk about it. Then I'm going to give you my lock of the week. I was 4-2 last week, hit my lock of the week, right? I hit the lock of the week. So it's going to be some really good football talk. Let's see. There you go. Let's go. It's game time. That's right. Thank you. Appreciate that. Hope everybody's doing all right. Again, my name is Chris Joseph. I'm your host. And if you look at the screen, if you're watching, right, and you see all the socials there, right down there, at Sports Bites Pod on X, that's at Sports Bites Pod on TikTok, on YouTube, as at Sports Bites Podcast and on Instagram. I'm getting ready to start having like a Patreon as well, and for some exclusive content that I'm going to be getting. Give you guys more of an update on that. We're going to talk about a crazy situation that happened in Colorado. Crazy situation, other than football, a crazy situation there in Boulder. But we're going to start off. I'm going to go ahead and jump into this interview so that way I can break everything down. But again, this is what earlier today I had the opportunity to interview Hale McGranahan from the South Carolina 247 Network and get his thoughts on South Carolina and how they would be this year. Here's that interview right now. All right, guys, big game this weekend. College game day is going to be in South Carolina. First time in 10 years when the Gamecocks hosted Missouri. I know the Gamecocks and their faithful looking for a little bit better result than they did 10 years ago. That was at the end of Spurrier's last season. They lost to Missouri in that game, but a big game. LSU, South Carolina. ESPN Game Day is going to be there. Uh, a lot of energy you're hearing about this, especially after how South Carolina performed against Kentucky last week. And joining me now is Hale McGranahan. He's from at the Big Spur 247, covers South Carolina. And Hale, I appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah, of course. I appreciate you having me, and definitely fired up about this weekend and what's going on here in Columbia.
Well, let's jump right into it. We'll talk about week one. What happened with ODU?
The offense certainly struggled when you don't have any touchdown drives longer than 6 yards. I think that's safe to say. They're starting a redshirt freshman quarterback in Lenore Sellers who didn't play very well, quite frankly, and I think some of that was just him making his first start and being a little timid and maybe playing not to make a mistake, and it kind of snowballed, and the defense had to bail him out with some sacks and turnovers inside ODU's own 10-yard line. So definitely a defensive tone setter, and what led to a really good week two for the guys on that side of the ball. But yeah, that ODU game was certainly not what anyone had in mind for a week one starter.
Now, doing what you do, covering the team, the 247 network, obviously you see message boards, you see social media. Was there anybody outside of the South Carolina program that saw what happened against Kentucky coming? Like how dominant South Carolina was from start to finish in that game?
Yeah, probably not. And honestly, I didn't see it coming. I thought the defense would play well. I just following them like I do. I had confidence that they were going to be really good rushing the passer, and I certainly did not envision 5 sacks against a team that was tied for second in the SEC last year with fewest sacks allowed. And offensively, they got things going a little bit better. Not great. I mean, you can just look at the final stats and see that it wasn't like earth shattering by any means, but was better certainly than week one. So that one caught me off guard. I certainly didn't think they would knock Brock Vandegrift around to that extent. I thought they would get to him and make a difference in the game, but not like that.
I don't recall, and I try to go back and watch footage. I can maybe count on my hand how many times that Vandegrift had a clean pocket and could actually step into a throw. I mean, he was pressured, running. I mean, you got guys beating triple teams and just impressive defensive performance there. Talk about Nick Emanwari. He's obviously the SEC Defensive Player of the Week, kind of a leader in that secondary. What does he mean to this South Carolina defense?
He's really experienced. I mean, he didn't start his very first game back in I guess it would have been 2022 against Georgia State, but the guy who was starting in front of him got hurt as Georgia State was on the go, and then it might have been like third down when Eman Worry has to sub in, and he ends up making a play and holding Georgia State to a field goal, and he's been in the lineup ever since. So he's got a ton of experience. He's big. I can't remember what he's quite listed at height weight wise, but he's around 6'3", 220 pounds. He can run. He's got ball skills, obviously, which we saw last week and towards the end of last season when he started getting some interceptions. So just an all around good football player. He's super smart. Just everything you look for in a guy playing safety, and he means a lot for sure.
Hill McGranahan from the Big Spur 247 joining us today on Sports Bites, talking about the big game coming up, South Carolina, LSU, game day, talking offensively. How good, and I know it's a very small sample size, but how good, what's the ceiling for Lenore Sellers?
He could be very good. He's got all the tools. He just needs the experience and to keep having success. Again, I mentioned Nicky Manward being smart. Lenore is a really smart guy, and I don't say that just because he wears glasses. Like he's got a great head on his shoulders. His disposition, to me, is what you want in a quarterback. He doesn't get too high. He doesn't get too low. Great athlete. Throws a beautiful ball. He's certainly got some things to work on as a passer, and I'm sure as he gets more experienced, he's going to get better. He's only 19 years old. He's making his third career start on Saturday. So there's so much to like about the guy. And if you could dig into his high school career at all and look at what he had to kind of go through going back to his sophomore season when COVID was still a factor with determining how many games guys could actually play in high school. His team had some games that were canceled for, those COVID reasons that were things back in 2021. And in 2022, his season got cut short by injury. So going into his senior year, he played as a freshman, wasn't that great, but his sophomore and junior years, he maybe had 10 games going into his senior year. So
right.
Senior year, he leads his team to a state championship. They're undefeated. He was a superstar in the making. So just really talented guy. Got all the stuff you want from shoulders up. And yeah, there's a lot to like about what he's got, not only in the long term, but in the short term as well. Because like I said, I think he got better from week 1 to week 2 for sure.
Saw an interview, I think it was at his press conference. Obviously, South Carolina fans all have the question, where's Nick Harbor been? I know Coach Beamer's frustrated with the lack of production. What do you think the issue is, that the fact that I think, if I'm correct, he doesn't have any catches so far on the year?
No, they threw the ball a couple times against Old Dominion. I mean, there was one play towards South Carolina sideline where it looked like Sellers kind of hesitated because he sort of like pumps and pats the ball and then throws it to Harbor. And I think he was just kind of waiting on Harbor to finish his route, whereas he probably needed to put it on him before the break was made. It was like an out route or something. I can't remember, maybe a comeback. But anyway, so some of that, like some of the lack of production for Harbor is going back to Sellers, and he's still trying to find his way. So, Sellers didn't play that great in week 1. Last week against Kentucky, they didn't run that many plays as an offense. I can't remember exactly what the total is, but they just didn't have a lot of plays, just sort of how the game played out from a game flow standpoint. So they're not trying to force feed him touches. Like, the conversation on our message board is like, well, hey, can he at least get the ball on some screens and some jet sweeps and things like that? And to me, yeah, like it sounds easy enough to me too, right? But
sure.
They haven't done that for whatever reason. But he's going to be a part of the offense and get involved and have some catches, I'm sure. And if they can get him loose vertically on Saturday, I think folks will probably forget about all that.
Right. Somebody who's actually been performing pretty well, Rocket Sanders. Talk about his addition to the South Carolina offense and what he means to that running back position.
Yeah, he was an instant upgrade for sure compared to what they had last season. Nothing against Mario Anderson, who's now in Memphis and having a
Yeah.
good season. But Rocket Sanders is next level good. I mean, just look at his 2022 season at Arkansas. Enough said, right? So he's awesome, man. They force fed him the ball a little much, and maybe in my opinion that first game, but he was able to get loose a couple times and pop off some nice little gains. And if you go back and look at that third quarter against Kentucky, it really seemed like things were getting going for him and the offense as a whole, for that matter. So I'll be curious to see if they pick up where they left off in the third quarter against Kentucky, because for those who didn't watch the game that closely, by the time South Carolina's offense got back on the field in the fourth quarter, after Rocket scored his touchdown at the end of the third quarter, they were up 31-6, and there was no sense of playing him. So I would imagine he's going to continue to keep getting better, because he didn't play a lot last year, and he's coming back from the injuries and he's still trying to find his footing. So he means a lot. To say all that to answer your question, he's a big boost to this offense. No doubt about that.
With what you do at the Big Spur 247, obviously you mentioned the message boards. You kind of see the temperature of the fan base. What is the temperature of the fan base on Shane Beamer? Is he coming into the year on the hot seat? Or what's kind of the thought on Shane Beamer this year?
He didn't come into the season on the hot seat, but if you go 5-7, that's going to raise some eyebrows, and people are going to want to see things get turned around in a hurry. And there's obviously a lot of season left to play with this one. But if they're 3-0 after tomorrow, I don't think there's going to be any more conversation about whether or not he's fixing to be on the hot seat. And again, they'll still have 9 games to play, so they got to still go win at least 3 more, and definitely put that stuff to bed for the time being. But most people looked at it like, hey, this guy needs to get it fixed. I guess the best way I could try to describe it is he was sort of hot seat adjacent, like not on it, but
close to it.
Yeah, like it's like looking at a bar and it's like, oh, there's a seat over there, and I don't have to sit in it, but somebody might kind of shove me that way if things keep going like they are.
Guys, South Carolina content, if you're looking for it, follow at Hale McGranahan, also at the Big Spur 247. So before we came on, I talked a little bit. I'm an Oklahoma guy, and Oklahoma now in the SEC. What has been kind of the general consensus of South Carolina fans about the addition of Texas and Oklahoma to a very tradition-rich conference?
Well, no offense to Texas or Oklahoma. I think a lot of South Carolina fans were kind of mad about it, because it's like, well, damn, this league's hard enough as it is. Now you got to bring in those two. Like what? So I think there's probably a degree of like, well, this kind of sucks, but it's cool at the same time, because a lot of South Carolina fans are going to be in Norman here in about a month going to that game. I'm going to be there, and I'm excited about seeing it for the first time. And I'm looking forward to whenever they go out to Austin to play. Hopefully I can make that trip too. So yeah, people are cool with it. Maybe the downside to it, though, aside from like having to play another really good team every year, is that it upsets the tradition of who South Carolina has played every year. Like, there's no Florida on the schedule this year. There's no Tennessee. There's no Georgia. South Carolina's played those 3 teams every year since 92 or whatever, however long it's been. So it kind of stinks that those 3 particular teams aren't on the schedule every year now. But at the same time, it's cool that Oklahoma and Texas are going to be regular opponents now too.
Well, we'll definitely have to get you on before the Oklahoma game. If you need any insight on where to go, what to do, what to eat in Oklahoma, I got you covered. But I try to tell people, like all my friends back home, I've been in Birmingham since 2016 now, being in the heart of SEC country. The thing that a lot of SEC fans were surprised about is that Oklahoma, during like Big 12 play, other than Oklahoma State, and that's for obvious reasons, it's an in-state opponent, every other Big 12 school would return tickets when it was coming to the Oklahoma game in Norman. And I tried to tell them, I was like, that's not happening in the SEC. Every fan base is going to buy all the tickets they can, plus some of your tickets. And that's why I think it's going to be so cool to see teams coming into Norman that Oklahoma's never seen before. I mean, we've played Tennessee, but you start your SEC season against Tennessee, but South Carolina coming to Oklahoma, obviously with the tie-in with Shane Beamer. I think I think it's great, and I can't wait for the whole. I tell them, you laugh at it just means more, but being here as long as I've been here, it does just mean more. I mean, when they see the cockaboos and stuff like that, there's nothing like that in the Big 12.
Yeah, I think probably the best way to speak to the point you just made there, Chris, is there's going to be a direct flight the Friday before South Carolina plays Oklahoma from Columbia Airport, CAE, which is not a big airport at all, to Oklahoma City. Like,
yeah.
I mean, if airlines are literally creating flights, 1-day flights, that tells you all you need to know about how much interest there is in South Carolina fans wanting to be at that game. And yeah, it's going to be pretty cool for me. Definitely seeing something new out there.
Let's talk about this weekend. Obviously, game day in town, first time since the Missouri game in 2014. How big of a deal is it for South Carolina to host game day and for all the country's attention to be on South Carolina this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, a week ago, no one around here would have even thought to say, hey, this game might be game day. Like, people were so down after that Old Dominion game and how poorly the offense played and how scary it was winning by 4 points and needing a touchdown in the fourth quarter to beat that team. It's pretty unbelievable, but we've all seen some unbelievable stuff around here as it relates to South Carolina football. So I guess you should never be surprised by anything, but man, it's pretty wild that it's been 10 years since it's been in Columbia, but there have been some lean years during that time. Game day was in Charlotte last year when South Carolina opened against UNC, but certainly not the same as it being in Columbia. So yeah, it's a big deal. It's going to kind of suck, quite frankly, dealing with
trying to get around
madness. Yeah, trying to get into the stadium for a noon game is challenging as it is. Even if there wasn't game day, it was going to be tough with a team like LSU being here. Now it's probably just going to be bananas. I keep probably moving up my departure time from my house, and I'll minutes from the stadium. So I'll probably give myself at least an hour to drive in. So it's a big deal, no doubt.
All right, 2 questions for you. If South Carolina wins, what happened? What went right for South Carolina for them to win this game Saturday?
The offense played really well. Obviously you need to score points to win football games. But with this LSU offense and how good they could be with Nussmeier and Kyron Lacey and Mason Taylor and some of those other receivers, their offensive line as good as it is and protecting it. Chances are South Carolina is going to need to do its part on offense as well. As good as this defense has been and as talented as they could be for South Carolina, they're probably going to give up some plays and maybe some touchdowns. So if South Carolina is the winner here in about 28 hours, it'll be because Lenore Sellers had a nice day. Rocket Sanders made some big runs. The line held up, protected, and the offense has taken another step in the right direction from week 2 to week 3. So to me, that's really what it boils down to is the guys on that side of the ball doing their part.
Obviously, there's got to be a little bit more, I would say, hope moving forward in the game because you saw Nichols have some success against that LSU defense, and you would think, you would hope that South Carolina has a better athletic offense than Nichols does.
Yeah, I mean, LSU, as bad as they were on defense last year, mean, they're last in the SEC in total defense through 2 games, and I know most teams have played, didn't have to play a Southern Cal in week 1, but I mean I go back to hearing Brian Kelly talk in the offseason about how they were having issues getting defensive tackles out of the portal and the challenges that they were dealing with that way from shelling out NIL for those types of guys. And he's sort of complaining about it. And I'm thinking to myself, like, well, if he doesn't think they're any better up front on defense, like that's probably a good sign for South Carolina. As challenging as it was in 23 for them to run the ball. It would help if they get to play a team that had just as much issue stopping the run. So it's at home too. So I think that probably helps a little bit. And yeah, I don't know. To me, they're just, it makes sense to me that South Carolina can continue to be better on offense, just given how bad LSU's defense has been.
We talked about Oklahoma, Texas joining the SEC. Obviously, very tradition rich. You got Sandstorm, you've got the Cockaboo stuff. For new fans coming, whether it be Oklahoma, Texas, what are the must dos on a game day in South Carolina?
The must dos on a game day, just hang out and tailgate in the parking lot somewhere. If you can find somewhere to go, just drop your cooler and hang out. You're going to be around some friendly folks. As long as you're friendly as well. Like,
yeah.
You'll be welcomed with open arms wherever you're at, especially at a noon game when people don't have all day to maybe get angry about something. So
sure.
Yeah, just wherever you find yourself, just enjoy it, man. Like that's there's not a whole lot going on around the stadium, just where it's located and
right.
What all's around it from like restaurants and bars and stuff. There's not a ton of options. There are a couple places, but yeah, just wherever you find yourself, wherever that parking pass says you are, just kick it and have a good time, because chances are there'll be some folks around you doing the same.
Awesome. Well, here on Sports Bites, I always talk about food, because food is part of college football. It's part of the game. In your travels, where's the best place you've been to eat?
In my the best place I've been to eat, golly. Man, I started covering college football in 2009. I covered Clemson, so I went to a bunch of ACC places over the years. I mean, there's some pretty cool spots down in the Miami area that I've been to, like some Spanish style type places, Cuban. Yeah. So I'll give you like a generic South Florida. Yeah. Somewhere down there, anywhere I've been when I've been down to cover Clemson playing Miami or in an Orange Bowl, there are just too many to really think of. But those have been some of the best ones, definitely.
Now I got to ask. I thought I saw. Is that a Mormons versus mullet shirt you're wearing?
Oh yeah.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. Coastal Carolina and BYU game. The marketing on that's great. So whoever came up and got those shirts out, kudos.
Yeah, it was I can't remember the guy's name, but it's a guy who's a South Carolina fan. I think he was in school. He was at Coastal at the time during that 2020 season. And as soon as I saw him posting about these shirts on Twitter, I was like, oh, I got to get one. So, yeah, it still fits, which is cool.
Hale, tell everybody they can follow your stuff, what you do, like your socials and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter. Or X at Hale McGranahan. Scrolling at the bottom, that just my name. Then obviously at thebigspur.com with 24/7. If you're a subscriber to any 24/7 site, you can read any of the VIP stuff that I put out for us. But yeah, those are my spots. That's where I'm at.
Hale, man, I know everything is busy during football season, so I appreciate you taking the time to come out and talk. And like I said, I'll have to hook you up with some spots to go to, depending on how long you're going to be in Norman, what to see, where to go eat, places like that. But enjoy the weekend, man, and hopefully you're talking about an LSU loss after the game on Saturday.
It'll make things more tolerable on the message board, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate it, Hale. That's Hale McGranahan from the Big Spur 247 Network. You can check him out at Hale McGranahan on X. We'll take a time out. We'll be right back here on Sports Bites Podcast.
Meet Olipop, a new kind of soda. Naturally sweet, nothing fake, supports digestive health. Delicious soda that's actually good for you. Yes, please.
Welcome back. And that was the interview I had with Hale McGranahan from the Big Spur 247's bigspur.com, covering South Carolina. Interesting how you struggle against Old Dominion and then you go out against Kentucky. You ruin Kentucky's Coronation Day because this game tomorrow night, Kentucky, Georgia, was supposed to be the game day game, but South Carolina had other plans, and they put a big kibosh to that. As you can see, our guys over at the Sun Belt Syndicate, go ODU. Man, there's some good football, man. And that game last night, Texas State and Arizona State, and I was telling people today, I was doing my SEC Bite show, wrapping up SEC play, and I was like, they got ahead of Mississippi State, and a lot of people want to bag on Mississippi State really quick. I still think Mississippi State will do okay. I don't know if they're going to be bowl eligible, but I think they're going to surprise some people and be in tight with some people that maybe they shouldn't be, right? But Arizona State, man, with Scatterbo at running back, that big boy can tote the rock, guys. He can absolutely tote the rock. Talk about some of the games that are coming up. We do have games going on right now. If you're watching live, Kansas and UNLV, that is 17-6. Kansas with the lead there. Very interesting matchup there. UNLV, a good team. Kansas, of course, losing to Illinois and Luke Altmaier last week. You got Arizona and Kansas State. They're over on Fox. That game's tied at 7. Kansas State just scored. And watching some of the clips, Avery Johnson is missing a lot of passes already. I mean, he's getting some pressure on him, but old Sunshine ain't doing it really right now. So it'll be interesting to see how he moves on. But that game almost in the second quarter. But, yeah, last night, Arizona State, 31, Texas State, 28. And Ishmati, 14 carries, 68 yards. Cam Scatterbo, 24 carries, 62 yards. I mean, they kind of bottled him up. I mean, he had 32 carries the week before with over 200 and some yards, but he runs hard, runs aggressive, 2 touchdowns. Arizona State victorious in that game. Then you had South Alabama and Northwestern State. But here's the interesting thing about that game. So for those of you who like to wager a little bit on college football, you like to put a little money down, maybe a chance to, finance some Christmas gifts. Who knows? Wager smartly. That's my PSA for you. Don't go chasing losses. Have an accountability buddy, if you're going to be gambling. But talk about a bad beat. You couldn't even collect on winning if you took the over in that game last night, because the over hit by itself. I mean, with South Alabama. But because the game wasn't at least 55 minutes, it does not count in the gambling world as an official game. So those who had South Alabama last night in the over, or if you had anything to do with that game, you got awarded no victories in that game. None. And I didn't know that. I saw the story and I was like, man, that's absolutely crazy to think that there's no way, especially as bad as that game was. That game hit the over. And you didn't need the extra 5 minutes because they ran the clock. And as a former official, it sucks when you have to go to a team and be like, hey, do you want to go ahead and run the clock so we can get you home? Because y'all are getting beat up pretty bad, right? So got my nectar of the gods right here. But, yeah, that was – talk about a bad beat on that. Big games coming up tomorrow. I mean, Alabama, Wisconsin. I talked a little bit about it in the SEC Bites. Alabama, I think, is a far better team. Alabama, I think, goes into Camp Randall and they jump around on Bucky, right? It's Wisconsin. It's a cool environment. It's a cool tradition, the whole, jump around. But it's Madison, Wisconsin at 11 a.m. It's not going to be intimidating for Alabama. It's not. And Tyler Van Dyke has not really shown me anything to where I think he can win this football game, right? It's just crazy. For those of you who are in here, I want to say thank you. Be sure you hit that like button, make a comment in the chat. Let's talk some ball. Don't forget, I'm going to be on till a little bit after 8 o'clock, not too much past that. And then the guys from the Golden Boot, George, Cody, Vandy, Chris, they're all coming on. They're going to do a short live, so you can check that out tonight. The Golden Boot, always entertaining when they get into their stuff. But follow them again at the Golden Boot Podcast. And again, if you're a big fan of college football dogs, man, that's where you need to go for all your information. We have people that are credentialed at every major conference, going to games all across the country, all across the football landscape. We have writers who write articles about every conference, about every team. So if there's a team that you're specifically a fan of and you want to find out information, you want to see some really good written content, go to collegefootballdogs.com. Dogs TV. If again, a lot of great stuff. Rock Hard Ball. For those of you Nebraska fans, those guys on Rock Hard Ball do a fantastic job. Great information. The Sun Belt Syndicate, I thought I was going to do a disservice to the Group of Five talk. That's why I kind of left out my G5 bites. Let them but if you want to know what's going on across the G5 landscape, check out the Sun Belt Syndicate. Really, really good stuff. We got Paul Talks Patriots. I mean, there's all kinds. Football Frame of Mind. Those two guys right there. If you watch a Football Frame of Mind, you're going to learn something. You're going to learn today. You're going to learn not to be on your IG Live, right, Shannon? Right, Unk? Ooh, oh, Shannon. Shannon. He's trying to say, I'm old. I didn't know. Oh, my goodness. But now, Alabama, I think they waxed Wisconsin. The spread on that game is 16.5. I would take Alabama given the 16.5. I would take the over of 48.5. I think Alabama absolutely destroys Wisconsin. Oklahoma State travels up the interstate to take on Tulsa, Chapman Stadium. Oklahoma State favored by 18. I think they cover that pretty easy. Tulsa, not a good football team. I'll see them later on in the year when they come here to UAB. Again, I'm credentialed at UAB, so I'll be able to see them when they come. I'll get to see Tulane here in a couple weeks and kind of get their thoughts on them, especially after this weekend with Oklahoma playing them. Michigan looking to bounce back, welcomes in Arkansas State, and Michigan's got some questions they got to answer. Quarterback play has got to get there. Donovan Mitchell, you got to start running the ball in that defense. You've been pushed around both games this year, even against Fresno State, getting pushed around. The Illini, they take on, let's see what's all in the top 25 right now for this weekend. Mention that. Oregon State, we're going to talk about that. I mean, the Civil War. And it's weird that it's now this time of year, right? This is usually an end-of-the-year game. It's in Corvallis. Oregon favored by 16, total of 49.5. I'd probably take the over, stay away from the points. I mean, I'd probably take Oregon State plus the 16. Seems like Oregon's playing really close games. It's in Corvallis. Again, it's 2:30 p.m., so it's going to be an earlier kickoff out there on the West Coast. But I like the over in that game. The Miami Hurricanes, the U, Cam Ward, they're favored by 36.5 over Ball State. An over of 54.5. 36.5 is a lot of points. A lot of points. Cam Ward dicing them up. 689 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 1 pick on the year. A leading candidate right now for the Heisman, along with Jackson Dart, guys like that. Notre Dame. They go on the road. Can they bounce back and beat Purdue? Now, Purdue, not a really good football team. Number 1 receiver from last year, gone. Number 1 play, gone. But Riley Leonard hasn't done anything to give me the warm fuzzies that he can get it done as the quarterback for Notre Dame. He just hasn't. I mean, everyone's like, oh, that game with Texas A&M was a good game. No, it wasn't. If you watch football, that was not a good game. Both quarterbacks sucked. The teams didn't look that great. And Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois, paid them $1.4 million. Purdue, I think, is going to be outmatched. Notre Dame's going to want to, get back on the winning track. Riley Leonard hasn't had the same juice as he had last year at Duke. He had that sauce going, couldn't get it done. The Utah Utes travel to Maverick Stadium in Logan, Utah to take on the Miners. Utah favored by 18, a total of 43.5. Cam Rising, gotta quit getting knocked out of bounds and getting hit hard like that. I mean, he's getting old. He's getting fragile. He can't take it. Ole Miss and Wake Forest. That game's at 5:30 on the CW network. Again, Jackson Dart having a phenomenal start to the year. 795 yards, 6 touchdowns. I think and they're not going to do it. Wake Forest, that very slow mesh offense that they run, I don't think it's going to have much impact on Lane Kiffin and the Ole Miss Rebels. The spread is 21, the total of 64.5. I would take the over in that game. ESPN, 6 o'clock, UTSA in Texas. Texas, the big darling from last week, they go into Michigan, beat up the defending national champions, right? They beat them up. Did everything they want to. Welcome in UTSA, who took a bad loss to Texas State. And it's one of those, are you playing for pride? The spread is 35, the total of 55.5. I don't think UTSA can keep it that close with Texas. Now, maybe Texas pulls off. I don't know. But I don't think that's going to be close. Georgia, Kentucky, Carson Beck, that defense. If South Carolina can do that, Kirby Smart and that Georgia defense is licking their lips. They're ready to go for that game, right? They're like, if that's what South Carolina can do, we're gonna go have us a good time. Meeting in the backfield. Georgia favored by 22, a total of 44.5. I probably like Georgia giving the 22 points away. I'd probably take Georgia minus 22 in that one. Nebraska, after its big victory over Colorado, welcomes in Northern Iowa. Nebraska favored by 30.5, a total of 47.5. Dylan Raiola made the plays that he needed to make in that game against Colorado. And again, confidence. When you start to get confident and you start to win football games, you're moving through the football year. You start getting confident, and it starts to kind of ooze over into other parts of the team. The defense starts believing. They know, man, if we go get a stop, we're going to get the ball back to Raiola, and it's going to be big time for him. Oh, Kansas State looks like they're going to return a punt. That guy can absolutely fly. Whoo! Dylan Edwards with a long punt return. Kansas State takes the lead over Arizona. Man, that guy's fast. He's so fast, it makes other people that are fast not look fast, But, man, that was got to watch the highlight on that. 6:45 SEC Network, Tennessee, Kent State. Now, next week, Tennessee travels to Norman, Oklahoma's first official game in the SEC. It is prime time, ABC, 6:30, but they've got the Kent State Golden Flashes. Tennessee favored by 49. It's a lot of points. When you're favored by almost 50, it's hard. It's hard to cover that many. But the over 62.5, I like the over 62.5 in that game. The best game as far as ranked opponents, you got Boston College in Missouri. Now, Boston College, with Bill O'Brien, they're going to try and grind it out. They're going to try to muck it up. They're going to try to keep the ball out of Brady Cook's hand, so that way he can't find Luther Burden, he can't find Theo Weiss, can't get anything going. But I just think, Missouri's going to sell out to stop the run. I don't know if Boston College has the athletes to beat them down the field. The spread is 14.5, a total of 52.5. I'd take the over in that game. That is in Memorial Stadium, Furrow Field in Memorial Stadium. And then we got to talk about the Sooners. It's they got a game coming up, and they're part of my 6 games to watch. Right? Saturday, 2:30 p.m. Central Standard Time on ESPN, Tulane, Oklahoma. This game, Oklahoma favored by 13. I'm surprised at that. A total of 46.5. Okay, I mean, I'm kind of in there. The money line right now, Tulane plus 400. So, if you take Tulane, you got a chance to win some money. I'm very surprised that the spread is 13 in this game. Now, again, should Oklahoma be able to beat Tulane by that different? Yes, they should. But what has Oklahoma shown this year that they can get that done? Nothing. Bad offensive line play, down 3 of your top receivers. Jackson Arnold looking very unsteady, unsure in the pocket. And Tulane, one mistake away from beating Kansas State, a team that everybody thinks has a chance to win the Big 12 and be in the college football playoff, right? Darian Mensah, excuse me, fantastic young man. Beat out the Oregon transfer. He makes one mistake, and Kansas State does a great job disguising blitzes, coming at you from all angles. And the only mistake Mensah made was late in the fourth quarter. Tulane is driving to take the lead against Kansas State. Now, again, Kansas State does a great job with those blitzes where they hide the blitz and they bring people from all different areas, right? And it confused the young kid. He's a freshman, right? Instead of trying to roll out, throw the ball up to the crowd, live to fight another day, he tries to make a play, carrying the ball around one-handed. He loses the ball. Kansas State scoops and scores. That game's done. Now, Oklahoma, you got lucky last week against Houston. Your defense is playing extremely well. You got a lot of help from the referees. And I say that because the punt, I don't think that guy touched the punt for Houston. You're able to score with Brennan Thompson in the next play. Nick Anderson should be on the field. I know he's been dealing with, hamstring, soft tissue problems. We'll see if he gets on the field. But this is a very important game for Oklahoma because, again, Tulane is going to be the best team they've seen before the game next week when Tennessee comes to town. And that offense moves at breakneck speed. That defense with James Pierce Jr., if that offensive line doesn't have things in order, James Pierce Jr. is going to spend the majority of that night in the backfield all over Jackson Arnold. So this game, you got Mario Williams, who started at Oklahoma, was one of the guys that left Oklahoma when Lincoln Riley left Oklahoma, went to USC. Mario left USC and came to Tulane. Now, he played in the game in 2021 when Oklahoma and Tulane played in Norman. That game was supposed to take place in New Orleans, but a hurricane, and funny enough, a hurricane hitting New Orleans right now as we speak. But Tulane came to Norman and played that as a home game, and that was a 45-30 football game. Now, that was a Willie Fritz coach team, but still, this game is going to be, Jenkins. He's a phenomenal player, the defensive line, and like I said, they've got a lot of speed on the outside. I hope. My heart says Oklahoma wins this game, right? My heart says Oklahoma wins this game. If I'm putting money down, I'm going with the over. The total of 46.5, I'm going with the over. 13 points is just a lot. I mean, I would want to take Tulane plus the 13, but then there's still that thought when I watch Oklahoma and you see the possibility of what they could do offensively if it starts to figure out, if they start to get the run game going, which the run game going can precede the play action passing, giving you more opportunity to go downfield. Obviously, Bauer, Sharp, and Nate Roberts have done a great job moving into that tight end position for Oklahoma. But my play on this would be the over, the 46.5. That would be my play on that. Another big game, the Norvell Bowl. Memphis travels to Tallahassee, 11 a.m. kick on ESPN. Florida State, they're favored in this game. I got to move this little banner. I apologize. They're favored by 6.5, right? Total of 53.5. The money line on Memphis plus 200. Seth Hennigan for Memphis is a very, very good quarterback. They have very talented skill players. Florida State still has DJ Uiagalelei, right? And DJU is not that guy. He's not that guy. I think Memphis has a chance to go in there and pull the upset. I'm playing this. I take Memphis plus a 6.5 all day. I think they cover. I think they probably win the game outright. and send Florida State fans into an even bigger tailspin. On paper, do the Seminoles have better athletes than Memphis? Across the board, probably. But those skill positions and the quarterback play, we've heard about this defensive line from Florida State, how they were supposed to be the best defensive line in the country. Haven't looked that way at all this year. Haven't looked that way at all this year. I like Memphis. I like Memphis straight up in that game. The money line. Woo-woo. Another game. How about the Apple Cup going on in Washington? 4.5. Washington favored by 4.5, a total of 39. Money lines on Wazoo plus 165. That's 230 on Peacock. Again, just like the Civil War, it's odd to see this game in the middle of the year, but it's a rivalry. It's a rivalry, and I'm not sold on Washington. I like Washington State in this game. I like Washington State to get the points, the plus 4.5. I like that pick. I'm not a believer in the quarterback for Washington. I mean, Will Rogers is I don't know. I'm just not buying it. Not buying him as a viable quarterback to lead Washington to the kind of heights that they were at last year, right? Crazy. A big game in the SEC. A&M favored by 3 down in the swamp. The fighting Giga Mags. Connor Wegman, overrated. DJ Lagway, the future for Florida. Total of 47.5. The money line Florida plus 130. I actually, for me, I think this game means more for Florida. And yes, it was Samford, but the offense looked organized last week against Samford for the Florida Gators. Wegman, all these people talking about how Wegman's going to be a first-round draft pick, I'm not buying it. And even if they lose, they lose to Florida, but Elko in his first year, those built-in, he doesn't have his guys, and you can't really say that a lot anymore because of NIL and the transfer portal. You bring your guys in, but Napier, if they lose that game, and especially if A&M gets out big, Napier's seat is going to become nuclear hot. That game's at 2:30, ABC, ESPN. I won't back down. I'm taking Florida plus the points, which means I play the money line with a little bit extra cash as well. This game, Colorado State. Remember that game last year? Colorado favored by 7, a total of 57.5. Money lines on Colorado State plus 225. 6:30 at night. Jay Norvell. I love Coach Norvell. I got to know Coach Norvell when he was at Oklahoma. He was a big boxing fan. We used to talk boxing quite a bit when I would go over to the athletic facilities, for practice, for press conferences, stuff like that. I love Jay Norvell. I think he's a great guy. Great guy. I remember 2014, the Sugar Bowl, Oklahoma, Alabama. We were doing our shows at the Hard Rock Cafe there on Bourbon Street. Well, I go over to Felix's to get some oysters, and there's Jay Norvell. And we sit down, we start eating some oysters and talking. So I love Jay Norvell, right? I know a lot of people are really upset with Coach Prime. They're really tired of the Shedeur Sanders. And here's my thing about that. If you are going to continue to talk and run your mouth, you have got to start backing it up at some point. And I think that's one of the big reasons why so many people are tired of this Colorado thing. What big game have you won? You haven't. Shedeur, you're going to sit here and do this all game. You want to play your rap song and all. Okay. But you got to stay on the field and you got to take those lumps. I think he left because he didn't want to hear all the boos, the students yelling at him, giving him crap because he was popping off at the gums. They're going to be out Shiloh Sanders. He had surgery. Travis Hunter is a phenomenal football player. I wish for his sake he was on a different team. And maybe Shedeur Sanders can be a good quarterback when he gets to the next level, has an offensive line that can protect him. I would take Colorado State plus 7 points in this game. I think, man, it's not going to be good. for Coach Prime. I don't see a lot of wins this year either, and it could spell writing on the wall. But yeah, there we go. That 2:30 Oklahoma Tulane. Whew, man. So that leads me to my give them a Sixers 6 picks. Here's my 6 picks for the week. Florida +3 over A&M. I like the over in the BC Missouri game, 53.5. I took a lot of the totals here. I like the over 57.5 in Colorado State. Colorado can't stop a soul, but they can score. So I like the over in that game. Memphis +6.5 over Florida State. I like the over in the OU versus Tulane. And my lock of the week, right there, the Apple Cup. The over 39.5 in the Apple Cup. That's my lock of the week. Now, I talked a little bit. Now, again, I was 4-2 last week. 4-2. You can go back, check tape. I'm not one of these that's like, oh, no. I was 4-2. So I came out on the positive. Put a little money down, you come out on the positive, you take that, right? You take it. Now, I was talking about everything happening at Colorado, and some crazy stuff happened at Colorado today.
Strange breaking news here at 9 on the CU campus. Just look at this. A driver winding up in the middle of Folsom Field tonight. Police surrounding that banged up pickup truck.
And all of this allegedly started with a hit and run. We have some brand new video showing the same truck near Arapahoe and Foothills Parkway. People all around the truck there, and he suddenly speeds away. And we have more new video that shows that same truck, this time driving down East Campus near Potts Track.
That's absolutely crazy to think that.
At the scene tonight with more on this wild story. Liam.
Jeremy, Erica, although you don't see a heavy police presence here in front of Folsom Field, this is still a very active situation here. Now, we were actually going to set up our live shot towards the north end of the stadium where it appeared that officers had centered their investigation, but we were told by Boulder police to move from the area so they could shut down that lot as they continue to investigate. So there's very limited details, but here is what we know. This is video from a viewer showing how this all started. You can see the truck here speeding away from a hit and run crash at Foothills Parkway in Arapahoe, and then moments later you can see that same driver heading towards Folsom Field. Now, a spokesperson with CU Boulder tells me around 7:15, that's when they received the call from Boulder police about that suspect driving until Folsom Field. Now, moments ago, my photographer Andrea was able to capture this photo of the pickup truck still left there on the field.
You know, the ground crew pissed.
The truck entered the stadium and the passenger and driver doors opened and all banged up, as you mentioned, Erica. Now, that back tire is also missing, and you can see what appears to be detectives taking photos for the investigation on the field. Now, we are still awaiting to learn more details, but I can tell you a CU spokesperson tells me that students here, there's no threat to the campus, and they wanted to make sure that that was clear here tonight. Now, I'm told Boulder police, they are finalizing some of the charges in this case, and we should be hearing from them pretty soon on this situation. And as soon as we get that, we'll make sure to pass that along to you. But for now, reporting live in Boulder, Aaliyah Sims, Fox 31.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, I know it's bad in Boulder, and there's some other things that you could partake in Boulder. I mean, obviously the guy was intoxicated. You can search online. You can find pictures. He's standing outside of his truck, arms raised, as he's totally trenched Folsom Field. And, I mean, it's a dangerous situation, not to make too much light of it, because it was a hit and run. You saw some of that video there, just kind of scary what happens, you know, but the drunk mind takes him all the way to Folsom Field. Now, before we get out of here, I got a question, right? I always like to talk about food. Had some Domino's tonight before I got on there. It was Pizza Friday for the kids. They're having Domino's. I've switched to drinking Coke Zero because of, and I know I shouldn't. I'm a diabetic. I shouldn't have it. But I saw this today. Coke Zero, limited edition, Oreo flavored, a fizzy cookie flavor. Are you buying it? Yes or no? Now, a lot of people are like, yeah, it could be a good mixer. I like ice in my bourbon. I like my bourbon on the rocks. I know some people like it neat, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'll drink bourbon neat sometimes, but I like my bourbon on the rocks. Now, I used to be a really big mixed drink guy. I used to drink E&J brandy with Dr. Pepper, hence diabetes, right? Hence diabetes. You know, drinking E&J and Dr. Pepper like it was going out of style. I love Jack and Coke, stuff like that. But or now I'll tell you this. So when my wife and I were in London, for those who paid, know that we went to London in August for the Taylor Swift concert for our anniversary, and the lemon Coke. Holy cow! I like the lemon Coke. Lemon Coke with a little bit of rum. I'm there, but I don't know about this. The limited edition Oreo Coca-Cola Zero Sugar. And in my head, all I'm thinking is that's just a huge chemical shitstorm. I mean, that's where you're going. It's going to be, whew. But I'll probably try it. I'm not going to lie. It's Coke Zero. So I'll probably try it and see where I am. But again, Coke Zero Oreo flavored Coke products, limited edition. Kind of a cool can, the black and white, kind of Halloween-y it looks like, but I don't know, chat, what do you think? Would you try the Coke Zero Oreo flavored beverage? I was telling my son the other day, I miss being diabetic. I miss drinking Dr. Pepper. I used to drink a ton of Dr. Pepper, which is probably one of the reasons I am a diabetic as we speak right now. But I don't know about that. Coke Zero Oreo flavored beverage. Well, guys, that's going to wrap it up for me tonight. I appreciate everybody that's been here. I know throughout the week I release my conference bites shows, Big 12 bites, SEC bites, ACC bites, Big 10 bites. Now I'm probably going to be putting those on a Patreon now. Trying to get, let's be transparent, trying to, live this dream and make it a viable source of income. And so I'm going to do my best to put out great content, and I'm going to have subscription based. There's going to be a couple levels, $5, $10 range. When you see it, jump in and support, man. Come around on that Patreon, support the show. And like I said, I'm credentialed through UAB, working on getting everything cleared up through Alabama. And then plus with my connections, there's going to be more interviews coming. Again, I want to thank Hale McGranahan from this Big Spur 247 as he came on to talk about South Carolina. Game day tomorrow in Columbia, the Cockaboos. So, they're going to talk to Shane Beamer. And I like Shane Beamer. He was a great guy, is a great guy from a great football family. But for those, if you're watching, again, smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, smash the follow button, hit the share button. If you think I'm a dumbass, tell your friends, hey, watch this fat guy try to talk sports. Let's have fun. Let's get in the chat. Let's talk about football. Let's talk ball. I'm going to have a good time with it. And I appreciate everybody, right? Again, follow the socials. They're right down here. X is at Sports Bites Pod. TikTok. I put out content on TikTok all the time. I do a lot of these long videos. I'll take long videos from these podcasts and I'll chop them up into short form videos, put them out. I also do like poll questions of the day. And the one thing I forgot to talk about. So I put that on my poll question today. With what happened in the NFL last night, should Tua retire? If you're watching, put a comment in the chat. Should Tua Tagovailoa retire? Again, not a good football game last night. Not a good football game at all. Miami did not look good. Buffalo throttling them. Now, it's hard to try to tell a competitor, don't give your all. But on a play, trying to make a play for his team, Tua Tagovailoa runs up the middle of the field. And the weird coincidence of it being Damar Hamlin, of course, we all know he was the one that almost lost his life on the field. Damar Hamlin hits him, and when Tua goes down, head bounces off the turf, and you see his hands get locked up again, the fencing position. And it's sad because now that's what you're looking at. You've seen Tua get severely injured publicly like that multiple times now. And again, it's going to be hard to try to convince a competitor, an athlete, someone who's been doing this their whole life, maybe you should hang it up. Because really, when you think about, right now, when the concussion clears, you're not limping, anything like that. So in your mind, you're like, I can still do it. I can still do it. but somebody in his family, and Damon Woody on the Scott Van Pelt show is talking about the Tua Tagovailoa family, right? And how the Samoan culture, everyone's close, everyone buys in, right? Does somebody in his family have the conversation with him? You need to think about your quality of life moving forward. Now, because it's injuries on the field, he's going to get his contract. He's going to make his money. And I think he speaks well enough. He can speak eloquent, very, you can understand him. Maybe there's a future for him in, broadcasting, and I think he could be, really successful there. But somebody's got to have the conversation. Now, again, it's all up to him. I mean, the NFL, because you're looking at lawsuits saying you can't play anymore, you're keeping me from earning potential, stuff like that. Mike McDaniel was kind of asked about it, and he can't really say anything. He's the head coach. He's not going to be like, hey, Tua, you should go ahead and retire. But I think the type of concussions and the severity of the concussions in such a short time, somebody in his family's got to have that conversation with him. Because you just don't want to see everything that's involved with CTE, that was going, you don't want to see that. Because at the end of the day, you know what? You're always going to be remembered. You're going to live in lore in Tuscaloosa for 2nd 28. You're going to live in people are going to know who you are for the rest of your life because of that. You don't have to keep playing. Now, again, I'm not telling him not to play. He's a grown man. My question is, will there be a conversation had with him saying, hey, is it worth your quality of life? A lot to think about. Guys, I appreciate it. I love you all for coming in, supporting. For those who commented during the show, thank you. Don't forget, 8:30, the Golden Boot podcast. Cody, George, Vandy, Chris, the trio are going to be on, the Holy Triumvirate. They're going to be on for a short live. Of course, Vandy Chris has got to brag, the only undefeated guy on the show. But be sure you swing by, check out the Golden Boot. Check out everybody on Dogs TV, College Sports Villains. I know Andrew, he's a big South Carolina fan, super excited about the game tomorrow. So check them out after the game next week. See their reaction. The Golden Boots on Monday, right after my show on Monday. Again, we've got Rock Hard Ball. We've got Football Frame of Mind. And we got a whole bunch of writers that are covering any team that you could think of in college football. Whatever your favorite team is, we got somebody covering that team. Go to collegefootballdogs.com. Just type in the search bar, Oklahoma. Type in the search bar, Texas. You're going to see other articles that our guys are putting in a lot of hard work and turning out some really good stuff. That's going to do it for me, guys. Everybody have a great football weekend. We'll talk to you on Monday as we break down what happened in week 3.
Thanks for joining us on this delicious journey through the world of sports and food on Sports Bites with your host, Chris Joseph. We hope you've enjoyed the game day stories and culinary adventures. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And if you've got any mouth-watering sports-related tales or favorite game day recipes, share them with us on social media. Until next time, remember, it's not just about the game. It's about the bites that make it unforgettable. Stay hungry for more Sports Bites.